don't know about you, I'm just fascinated by that. How do we create a set of conditions that drive the actions and the behaviors that we want? These are the sort of things that we want, isn't it? We want people to be productive. We want people to stay with us as leaders. We want people to do good work. We want customers to advocate for our friends and family, to go to that restaurant, to go to that hotel, to go to that business. These are the outcomes that we want, right? And of course, what's fascinating is, what do leaders do to get people to do these things? How do you engage people? How do you inspire people? We look out at the world and we know something's off about those conditions. We do, don't we? Engagement, by the way, remains stubbornly low. We've got graduating seniors out of college and school with very high levels of stress and anxiety. The most recent Gallup polls, by the way, from 2022, looking at the big institutions in our lives, big companies, big tech, the media, our schools, hospitals, none of those have more than 15% of us saying that they have deep trust and confidence in those institutions. None of those is above 15%. It's almost like we're living in a world which isn't built for us. It isn't for us. It doesn't stand for us, does it? And the data points to that. Now, there's a lot of reasons why. But one of the reasons that I want to share with you today, one of the big reasons why it feels so off to us, is that we have failed to take seriously the most powerful force in life. Love is the most powerful force in business, folks. Love is the most powerful force in business. You move people from a 2 to a 3, you get very little increase in performance. You move customers from a 3 to a 4, you get very little increase in performance. It's only when somebody, as a customer or an employee, goes 5, in terms of the strength of my feeling about this, that you see that leap in performance. If you really wanted to understand how to get more great experiences for employees, more great experience for students, more great experience for patients or customers, you got to look up here at extreme positives. It's what's happening in those places where customers are like, oh, or employees are like, I would go through a wall for her. Like, what's that? If we want more of it, we've got to study what is that when it's way higher, 10x higher than any other team, 10x higher than any other sales department or sales division. If you study those extreme positives and you say, what the heck is going on there? You land on this. Love. And when you look at people that are 10xing it, you'll hear them say, I love that particular activity. I love that particular job. I love my manager. I love that team. I love that brand. I love that restaurant. And they'll use that word love. There may be a lot of things they like. There may be a lot of things they're satisfied with. But love isn't just liking turned up to 11. Love isn't just uber satisfaction or satisfaction on steroids. Love is a different category altogether. You've got love, where you're like, I love this. And then you've got not love. And for those of you struggling to figure that out, think about water and boiling. I can heat water up from 11 to 111 to 211 degrees. It's still water. What happens at 212? It boils. It turns it into an entirely different state. It becomes steam. That's the same thing with love. The only time that you could really say we've changed the state of water is when we get it to boiling. Everything below that is just, not boiling. It's the same with love. When you think about a manager or a leader you've had a lot of leaders. Some of them you're like, pretty good. Yeah, not bad. Jolly good. Yeah. But there's very few, maybe just one where you went, gosh, I loved working for him. Loved it. Love that. Love's a different category of thing. You learn nothing about the 5s from studying the 4s. You learn nothing about the love from studying people who really, really like something. What's love? By the way, why is this important? Because it's only once you get to love, it's only once you get to 5 that I can predict what you're going to go do. If you're at 4, that's so lovely. I can predict nothing about what you're going to do. I can't predict how productive you're going to be. I can't predict whether you're going to stay with my company. If you're a customer, I can't predict how quickly you're going to come back to my store, my restaurant, my hotel, whatever it is. I can't predict how much you're going to advocate my company to friends and family. I can't predict any of it. You're just a 4. You're not boiling. You're not boiling. But when you get to 5, that's the only time when I can start predicting what you're going to do. What does that mean? That means that love is the most powerful force in business, folks. Love is the most powerful force in business. If by that we mean what drives human behavior. And we don't have a strategy for it. It's the most bizarre thing. It's the most powerful force in business. We have strategies for doing things cost effectively. We have strategies for doing things efficiently. We have strategies for doing things growth orientedly. We have strategies for AI. We don't have strategies for doing things lovingly. Why would we do that? Because it's just everything. If you're a leader, you have to lead with love, and that doesn't mean be soft. But you can lead lovingly. You could fire someone lovingly. You could lay someone off lovingly. Loving doesn't mean just nice. What can we do to start building strategies for love? Yes, God is love, but love is also the thing that drives us to do all sorts of great stuff as customers and as employees. So how do we do that? How do we start building strategies as leaders for love? I know it sounds kind of weird to say it, but let's start off by defining it. We've got to start by defining it. What's love? The Greeks had they had 8 definitions for the word love. There's probably actually 8 billion, as many people as there are in the world today, right? And yet something about love is consistent across the board, because it's only when you start saying, I love something, that I can predict what you're going to do. Around the world, this is true. So there must be something about love. When we tie the word love to our experience of something, it's not just an accident. Something happened. Here's the definition that I would give you. From all the studies I've been a part of, love is that commitment to the flourishing of a human. And if we think about love that way, we have to remember that life for us is motion. We are, all of us as human beings, we're moving through life. Today is a Friday, but it isn't really a Friday. It's you got up this morning, and then maybe you checked your phone, and then maybe you worked out, and then maybe you had a phone call, maybe you did something in the car on the way, then you got here. Life is just a series of experiences. We often say that people should strive for work-life balance, but balance is a very, very weird aspiration, because as much as anything else, it's static. If you ever found that perfect balance, you'd be walking around going, nobody move, please, I got it, I got this, finally I got it, nobody move, right? Love is motion. But of course, also flip that around. You're an experience maker. Leaders are experience makers. I think it was a great concept. And then they'd outsource the parking. So it took me 90 minutes to get out of the parking lot. That was a series of experiences. I will not go back to that concept, because that series of experiences ended with, oh, that was terrible. So you think about it, we're experience makers. You as a leader are on stage all the time. We're watching you when you show up, how you run that meeting, who you speak to first, what do you prioritize, how do you send that email, how do you respond to that grumpy customer. We're watching you all the time because you're an experience maker. So the question for all of us is, as individuals, as leaders, how do we design love in? Love isn't a magical mystery tour. You can design it in. And these are those 2 ways in which you can. Yourself as you move through the world, and then how do we design a loving world? The most effective people do not find love in all that they do. Instead, they find the love in what they do. And if you work in a loveless place, love can't flourish in a loveless world. How do we build more and more and more and more lovingly companies? Not soft companies, but companies where they've taken it seriously and designed love in. Right now, we're living in that amoral transactional world. As an employee, you're called a full-time equivalent. You're an FTE, or you're a head count. Because you're an element of a financial equation. That's why it feels so weird today, because we actually don't want you to be a human. We want you to be an element of a financial equation. You're a head count. We will lay off 10,000 of you in January and then come back around in November and go, oh, we need 3,000 of you back. And then we're going to lay off 2,000 more, and then we'll get 2,000. It's all super transactional, isn't it? And it feels that way. Even as passengers and customers, we feel this. One of the big airlines, well, actually 2 of the big airlines, have just changed their frequent flyer policy, so that now, in order to get to be highest level status, it's not a question of how many miles you fly. It's how much money you spend on their credit card. It's not a frequent flyer program anymore. It's a frequent spender program, which, by the way, isn't morally wrong. It's just amoral, because before that, they had a commitment to serve passengers. Now it's like, well, we're not really in the passenger business anymore. We're trying to basically extract as much value from you as a passenger. You aren't a passenger who's a human that we're trying to serve. You're your lifetime customer value. You're your average basket size. That's the world we've made. That's why it feels so weird. We feel like we're elements of financial equations because we are. Of course, what we want is a loving world. We want loving experiences. That's what we want. We don't use that word, but that's what we want. We want a loving world. How do you move someone into a place where they have love in their heart for your team, for your church, for your community, for your company? What I want to leave you with is a lovingly lens. And I want you to put it on from now on so that you can look at the world and you sense something's wrong. But sometimes giving you a language to name it helps us fix it. So I'm going to give you a lens which tries to go loving, unloving, lovingly, unlovingly. And hopefully from now on, you'll never be able to unsee through that lens. You'll always have that lens on. Let me give you some examples of what loving and unloving looks like. Large spans of control are unloving. What is loving? Frequent conversations between a team leader and a team member. How frequent? Once a week, that's loving. Once a week. As a team leader, I promise you, you look at the rituals of the best team leaders, by far the most powerful ritual is a one-on-one check-in every week. Handoffs are unloving. You're going to go out to a restaurant tonight. You're going to go out to a restaurant. You're going to call up. Maybe you've already called up. Maybe you got an open table. And then you're going to get to the restaurant. And the person who checks you in, the hostess, will not be the person who you booked through. That person will then walk you to the table and you'll sit down and turn to a person to try to get an order or a drink. But that'll be the busser. And the busser will go, sorry, I can't help you. I'm the busser. And then you'll wait a little bit more. And then the waiter will come up and then take your order, maybe nicely. Take your order and then go away, and then you'll wait for the order to come back, but it won't be brought back by the waiter. It's brought back by the food delivery person who doesn't know you at all. Who gets the cheese? Who's got the French fries? Who had the soup? And at woe betide you've moved chairs because maybe the air conditioning was too hot on someone or too cold, and you're now responsible for keeping the integrity of your experience all the way through the restaurant. And then when you try to get your check, your waiter's gone already. You got to get someone else, and you walk out. Handoffs like that are unloving. Why? Because they take a whole human being, you, and they disintegrate you. And they put the responsibility on you to keep telling your story. My son was in hospital for 3 weeks. You get checked in by an administrator, you hand it to a nurse, then to another nurse, then to a different doctor, then to another doctor, then back to an administrator, then back to a doctor. And every single transition, you have to be the one to keep telling your whole story. Think about it with HR. You go join a company and you're the one, if you want to call and ask about insurance, you call these people over here. If you want to call and talk about family leave, it's the different set of people over here. Where the first question isn't, who are you? It's, what's your employee number? Handoffs are unloving. People who take a stand for what they believe in are loving. People who are vague and shapeshifters are unloving. But if you really were loving about the experience you're creating for your customers, you would take seriously every single touch point. The vanishing employee is unloving. When somebody good leaves a company, we can't talk about them. We don't even mention their name anymore. We pretend that they weren't that good anyway. And they were only headcount, so now they're headless and they're gone. So anyway, their headcount's gone. So now we have open headcount, but we won't bring up them. You're the vanishing employee. No, alumni associations are loving. Alumni associations. If the person is the point, then you will stay close to people. Some part of their journey was with you. Some part of their road was with you. But then they moved on. If you are loving, you believe that the person's flourishing is the point, and you do extreme and extraordinary things to convey to people that you come work for us. We want your flourishing, even if that means leaving us. You build a lovingly company, one touch point at a time. We have dismissed and not taken seriously the most powerful force in human life, and certainly in business. And so what we are asking of you, we are looking at you as our leader, and we want you to be happy. We want you to have a chance to play out your mission. We want you to have belief and faith in yourself. We really do. But what we're really deep down asking of you as your followers, we're asking you to believe in love as a leader. Because if you are going to make the change that we have to see in the world, if you're going to be a high road leader, you have got to take seriously as a leader this most powerful, divine, spiritual human force.